Ever feel like those New York City Council meetings, they're kind of like a black box?
Mm,
Like, we hear about them, but what actually goes on in there?
right.
Well, today we're cracking open those minutes from the meeting on May 16th, 2024. No drama, no spin, just pure policy deep dive.
That's right. Straight from the source.
And trust me, you're going to be surprised by what's really on their to-do list.
Yeah, it's not just potholes and parking, that's for sure.
No, definitely not.
These minutes are it's like peeking into the city's diary. It reveals what keeps those 48 council members up at night.
48. Can you imagine?
I know.
48 people. I mean, you try getting that many people to just agree on dinner, let alone figuring out how to run an entire mega city.
Yep.
And speaking of those folks, as I was going through these minutes, certain names, they kept popping up. Yeah. A lot.
Oh, yeah.
Council members, Brewer, Gutierrez.
Huh.
They're all over the place. Clearly not their first rodeo.
No, they're definitely ones to watch. You can see their fingerprints on a really wide range of issues, which
Okay.
kind of hints at, their influence and priorities within the council.
Sounds like a little political mystery,
Yeah.
Who are these power players and what are they up to? But,
Yeah.
oh, hold on. There's this one little detail before we really dive in, and I just thought this was interesting. One council member, during roll call, was marked as parental.
Ah,
Just makes you think about, like, the real lives that are going on, even amidst all this policy talk.
it does, absolutely. Like a little humanizing touch. But you're right, those humans are in there tackling some seriously complex stuff.
Oh, for sure.
Did you know, for instance, that the minutes are kind of split into three main sections?
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you've got your bills, which are your proposed laws, right?
Okay.
Then you've got your land use applications, which is all about zoning, development. That stuff gets heated.
Oh, yeah, because everyone's got an opinion about what gets built where.
Exactly. And then last but not least, you have your resolutions, which are basically the council's official stance, on an issue.
Their chance to make a statement.
Exactly. But get ready, okay, because we're about to do some jargon busting.
Oh, good.
Because we encountered phrases like zoning map amendments and, get this, mandatory inclusionary housing.
Sounds intimidating.
Right. But this stuff, it's actually really crucial. It affects you.
Yeah. Mandatory inclusionary housing, for example,
Yeah.
that directly affects your rent, your commute, your neighborhood.
Right.
It's not just bureaucratic mumbo jumbo. That's how the city tries to make sure that when they build new buildings, those buildings actually have affordable apartments for real people.
It's a constant balancing act, too, trying
Yeah.
to attract investment, but also preventing displacement.
Right, right.
But it gets juicier. Okay.
Okay.
Let's talk about some of these bill titles.
Oh, yeah, let's get into it because I was like, what is going on?
I know, right? So one of them wants the Department of Education to, actually track how many kids have sickle cell disease.
Okay, interesting.
Another one's all about, regulating those electric bikes that are, they're suddenly everywhere.
Oh, my God, yes.
Right.
So you've got public health and then navigating this new technology. So they're right there, with the headlines.
So you're right in.
And get this, there's a bill to limit nighttime illumination on certain buildings.
Wait, what? They're going to try to tell New Yorkers to turn down the lights?
Good luck with that one.
Right.
But it does speak to growing concerns about light pollution and how it impacts everything from wildlife to, just people's sleep cycles.
Interesting.
And speaking of things that keep you up at night, have you ever had a shady contractor experience?
Who hasn't in this city?
I know, right?
Oh, my God.
Well, there's a whole section in here on consumer protections and home repair work.
Okay, clearly, the council is hearing those complaints loud and clear.
I would hope so.
Hmm.
And then finally, because it's 2024 and we got to stay current, there's talk about expanding rapid self-testing for sexually transmitted infections. Public health never goes out of style.
Never goes out of style,
Nope.
and neither do budget battles.
Oh, boy.
And trust me, when we get to the mayor's budget communication,
Uh-oh.
things get real.
Okay, so budget time. I'm not going to lie, even for a word nerd like me,
Yeah.
these budget documents, they were dense.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I have you to guide us through this financial maze.
I'll do my best.
So what treasures, what juicy tidbits did you unearth in the mayor's budget communication?
Well, I mean, the first thing I always look for is like, okay, where's the money trail? What's the overall spending strategy here? And in this case, it's pretty clear that affordable housing, I mean, that's a top priority.
Okay.
And we're not just talking about like a little bump here. The budget for affordable housing initiatives, it's seen a substantial increase, almost 15% compared to last year.
15%.
Okay.
Okay, that is huge. I mean, we knew it was a hot button issue, obviously, but that really drives home how serious they are about trying to actually tackle this.
Exactly. And it's not just about like throwing money at the problem either, which sometimes happens, right? They're actually being strategic about it. A big chunk of that increase, it's earmarked for like developing new affordable units.
Okay.
But another portion of it is dedicated to like preserving existing affordable housing, which is something that often gets overlooked.
Right, because you need to build new ships.
Yeah.
But you got to keep the old ones afloat at the same time.
Exactly.
But before we get too far into the budget weeds here, I kind of want to like back up for a second.
Okay.
I'm curious about the nitty-gritty of how these council decisions actually get made.
Okay.
Because we kept seeing phrases in the minutes like referred to COM, approved by consent roll call, approved by voice vote.
Right.
It's like a whole other language.
It is, but it's a language we can decode.
Okay, good.
So referred to COM, basically what that means is they're sending that particular item to like a smaller committee, that specializes in that area.
Okay.
Think of it like a sub-team tackling a specific project.
Right.
So like that bill we were talking about like tracking sickle cell cases in schools, that's heading straight to the Committee on Education.
Got it. So it's not just like 48 council members all debating every single issue at once.
Right. Can you imagine?
Oh, my God.
That would be chaos.
Absolute chaos.
So the committee system, it really allows for like more focused expertise, more in-depth discussion. Committees hold hearings. They'll call in experts. They really hash things out.
Right. Yeah.
And then ultimately they make a recommendation to the full council.
Okay. So what about those votes? You're talking about consent roll call versus like voice vote. Is that where things get like a little more dramatic?
Yeah, so a consent roll call, that's basically like the fast track. It's a way to just like quickly approve the non-controversial stuff.
Right.
If no one objects, boom, it's approved. You don't need to have this whole big debate.
Right. Got to save time and energy somewhere.
Exactly. So it's like the routine stuff, motions that everyone pretty much agrees on. But when an issue is a little more, shall we say, spirited,
right,
that's when you go for the voice vote.
Okay.
That's when you hear the ayes and the nays, they tally things up. You get a real sense of where everyone stands.
Right, like who's siding with who.
Exactly. And, looking at like which items actually required a recorded vote, I mean, that can be really telling because it highlights like the issues that spark the most debate, the most disagreement.
It's like finding the cracks in the city's like seemingly smooth facade.
Exactly.
Where like the tensions kind of bubble up to the surface.
Exactly. And speaking of tensions bubbling up, let's get back to that budget because there were a few other areas where I thought things got really interesting. Public health, for example, was another one. Like that was a recurring theme.
Yeah, we saw a lot about maternal mortality, access to health care in like underserved communities.
And don't forget the expansion of rapid testing for sexually transmitted infections.
Right.
So it's clear that this is a major concern for this council. It reflects like national trends and anxieties. But here's what I found fascinating. Even though they allocated more funds to several public health initiatives, there was actually a slight decrease in the overall Department of Health budget compared to last year.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So it's like they're really prioritizing certain areas within public health, but maybe like streamlining others, trying to be more efficient.
Yeah, like they're playing budget Jenga.
Right.
Trying to keep everything balanced.
Exactly. And speaking of like tough decisions, there was another kind of like hot button issue that kept popping up in these minutes that I think we need to dig into a little bit. We're talking about criminal justice reform.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because that just seemed to be a major theme throughout all of these minutes.
Yeah, and it's, it's a big one, right? It's multifaceted. There are no easy answers when it comes to criminal justice reform.
Right.
But we saw resolutions calling for like greater police accountability. Support for like re-entry programs for formerly incarcerated individuals.
Yeah.
Even like explorations of alternative sentencing models, particularly for non-violent offenses.
Right. It's a lot to unpack, but it really does seem like there's a real push for change. Like people are starting to recognize that the current system maybe needs some serious rethinking.
Yeah, there's definitely a desire for reform. And I think what's really striking is you can see, even within the council, there's a diversity of voices on this issue.
Oh, interesting.
You have folks who are really advocating for like a more radical overhaul of the system. And then you have others who are, maybe focusing more on like incremental but impactful reforms. So it's an ongoing debate. I mean, it's happening nationwide, but these minutes really kind of bring it home to the streets of New York,
Because at the end of the day, these aren't just like, abstract policy discussions. These are real lives. These are real neighborhoods.
Right.
Real people who are just trying to make it in this city.
Exactly. And that's what makes these deep dives so fascinating, right?
Yeah.
We start with this like seemingly dry document, right,
Okay.
meeting minutes, but we end up with this like incredibly rich tapestry of like the city's hopes, its anxieties, and like the very real struggles that are playing out, on its streets every day.
Totally. And it reminds you that, like, behind all the jargon and the bureaucratic processes, there are human stories there. There are individual lives that are being shaped by the decisions that are being made in those council chambers.
100%. And I think that's something we should all remember. It doesn't matter if you're a lifelong New Yorker or just, passing through these decisions, these budgets, these seemingly, small zoning changes.
Right.
They all have a ripple effect.
Like that butterfly effect thing.
Right, exactly.
Like one little flap of a wing in City Hall could end up making a huge difference in your neighborhood park, your kid's school, even like, I don't know, the price of that bagel you grab every morning.
100%. And, I think if there's one like really important takeaway from this deep dive, it's that you don't have to be like a political insider to understand how local government works or to make your voice heard.
Right, because these minutes, they're not like, locked away in some vault somewhere.
Yeah, they're online. Anyone can access them. You can literally read them yourself. You can see what your council member's working on. You can reach out to them directly with your thoughts, your concerns.
So the next time you feel that wave of like, ugh, the city's a mess. What are they even doing?
Yes.
Remember this deep dive.
Remember these people.
Remember that there are people who are actually in there working on these issues, debating them, like fighting for what they believe in. And remember that you have a voice in that conversation.
That's right.
It might be a city of millions, but like never underestimate the power of your individual voice, your perspective, your engagement in the democratic process.
It's true.
Because those 48 council members, ultimately, they work for you.
That's right, they do.
So stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay engaged.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Until next time, keep diving deep, everybody.